At the beginning of the story, the narrator explains that human beings have been closely observed by aliens for many years. These aliens have persistently plotted against humans. In the middle of the workday, Raymond cuts his shift short and rushes home. However, despite his frantic driving, he is still late to meet his ex-wife. His former wife remains deeply distrustful of Raymond. The mother has brought their 2 young children to stay with Raymond for the weekend, though the kids show absolutely no excitement about being reunited with him. Raymond's pregnant ex-wife is unhappy about the messy state of his kitchen. She and her new husband are leaving to visit her parents. In the meantime, the children learn from the news that an unusual electromagnetic blackout has left Ukraine without power. Raymond quickly pulls the kids away from the TV and calls them out to the backyard to play baseball. His son, Robbie, showing extreme reluctance, pitches to his father. Their dialogue quickly turns tense and unpleasant. Eventually, the boy becomes angry, throws down his glove, and walks back into the house. Rachel, his daughter, tries to support her father, but he is too annoyed to communicate. Instead, he falls asleep. In the morning, Rachel tries to have a normal conversation with her grumpy dad. To make matters worse, Robbie has driven off somewhere in Raymond's car without asking. The worried father immediately runs outside to find his son and notices a crowd of neighbors pointing their phones and taking pictures of an atmospheric anomaly behind him. Raymond is stunned to see a colossal, dark thundercloud swirling directly overhead. No one in the gathering crowd has ever seen a storm cloud like it in their entire lives. The man runs back to the backyard to get a clearer look at the storm anomaly and quickly calls Rachel to join him. Suddenly, a massive, powerful bolt of lightning strikes from the cloud. The young girl is immediately terrified and begs to go back inside, but Raymond is initially only amused. However, the lightning continues to strike the ground harder and harder, hitting closer and closer to their house. They run inside to hide beneath a table, as lightning strikes the same spot 26 times. When everything subsides, the shaken Raymond comes to his senses, but he cannot calm his hysterical daughter. The electrical power throughout the house is completely dead, and his mobile phone has no signal as well. Raymond runs outside and discovers that all the neighborhood cars have lost power. He finds Robbie in the crowd and tells him to go home to his sister, while Raymond himself walks toward the lightning strike zone. A curious crowd of local citizens is rapidly flocking to the scene of the strikes. Some individuals in the crowd believe that massive solar flares from the sun must be to blame for the sudden electrical blackout. Police officers arrive and try to move the gathering people away from the smoking hole that has opened up in the road. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoes from underground. An earthquake violently shakes the entire area, causing the walls of nearby buildings to collapse. The terrified people begin to run away in panic. Suddenly, a colossal robot rises with a wild roar. This towering mechanical giant is so staggeringly immense that it easily dwarfs the tallest building in the city. The terrified people scatter in panic, staring at the horror from afar as the machine emits deep noises. Moving on 3 huge legs, it aims its advanced energy weapons directly at the fleeing crowd, initiating a systematic extermination. When the powerful beams strike, the victims are instantly vaporized, leaving behind nothing but empty clothes and drifting ashes. Like the others, Raymond tries to flee for his life as the beams pass dangerously close to him. Everything explodes behind the running man, but he manages to slip away through the burning debris and return home. In complete shock, he collapses on his kitchen floor, covered in a fine white dust that is actually human ashes. Raymond washes up in horror. He asks the children to pack quickly and grabs his gun. They leave in a car down the chaotic street. The streets are filled with hysterical crowds running around in absolute chaos. Raymond leads the children to his mechanic friend's shop, where a customer's car has just been repaired. The family quickly gets in, and Raymond tries to convince his hesitant friend to join them. As the 2 men argue, the surrounding environment quickly descends further into absolute apocalyptic horror. Ultimately, the family is forced to drive away, and Raymond's friend pays the price for his hesitation. Raymond drives fast down the highway, while the young Rachel becomes completely hysterical. Robbie quickly calms her down. As they speed along, Raymond explains to the children as best he can where the terrifying, giant robot actually came from. He suggests to them that the colossal machine does not belong to Earth, but rather must have come from a completely different world. Raymond assumes that the robot was buried deep in the ground a long time ago, and that whatever is controlling it descended to it with the recent storm. Either way, they must get out of town. The father eventually brings the children to their mother's house, but they find the residence completely dark and empty, as the couple has already left. Raymond decides to spend the night sheltering inside the house and then leave in the morning to meet his ex-wife. The family heads down into the basement for the night for safety. In the middle of the night, lightning strikes again, shaking the entire house violently. The terrified family scrambles deeper into the basement, miraculously escaping a massive, fiery explosion that destroys the upper floors. In the morning, Raymond crawls out and is stunned to discover that a large commercial airplane has crashed directly onto their home, demolishing the entire street. He encounters reporters who call the robots tripods. They inform Raymond that these machines have appeared globally, protected by impenetrable energy shields that make them impossible to destroy. The reporters leave when they hear an approaching tripod. Raymond returns to the children in the basement, begging Rachel not to look around at the devastation as they leave the house. Soon, the children need to use the bathroom, so Raymond stops the car along the highway, warning them not to go too far. Rachel, embarrassed, runs to a distant river, where she is horrified to see the lifeless bodies of victims floating downstream. Raymond finds her in time and carries her back. Meanwhile, a military convoy is driving down the highway toward the disaster's epicenter. Robbie suddenly gets heroic, leaping out of the car to ride with the soldiers to fight the monsters. Raymond is vehemently opposed to this, to which his stubborn son responds with an emotional tantrum, accusing his father of being a weak wimp. But Raymond is only trying to keep his children safe. Robbie remains convinced that Raymond just wants to get rid of them. Soon, his exhausted father asks the boy to get behind the wheel. By nightfall, the family arrives in a big city, where desperate crowds look uneasily at their car. Robbie and Raymond swap places behind the wheel without slowing down, but the angry mob quickly attacks the car. Raymond refuses to stop until a woman with a baby steps in his way. He crashes into a pole. The violent crowd immediately swarms them, smashing the windows and dragging Raymond and Robbie out to beat them up. Raymond struggles to fight back, firing a warning shot into the air to get his son released. However, another desperate man with a gun demands the car. Raymond throws his weapon away. He takes the frightened Rachel out of the vehicle, and the family hides in a coffee shop. Raymond breaks down in tears, almost losing hope, before they continue on foot amidst a massive crowd of refugees. People share rumors that the monsters have awakened all over the earth to systematically destroy all life. The crowd approaches a ferry terminal to cross the river, but a tripod suddenly appears. The mob rushes to the ferry, bypassing military blockades meant to stop overcrowding. Raymond and his children manage to board, but another tripod emerges from under the water and overturns the ship. The monsters deploy metal tentacles to snatch people from the water, but Raymond and his kids swim to shore. They spend the night on the road and reach a hill in the morning where a fierce battle is raging between the military and the tripods. Robbie suddenly sprints into the thick of the battle. Raymond leaves Rachel by a tree, begging her not to move while he runs after his son. Meanwhile, a well-meaning couple tries to drag the screaming Rachel away. Raymond lets Robbie go and runs back to rescue Rachel just before a massive explosion. Devastated by the loss of his son, Raymond concentrates on saving Rachel, seeking shelter in a basement owned by a paranoid survivor named Harlan. Inside the quiet basement, Raymond puts Rachel to bed. Harlan, who lost his family, is determined to stand his ground. Suddenly, a tripod passes overhead, partially collapsing the ceiling, and a drone creeps inside to search the room. The men quietly hide, but Harlan tries to strike it with an axe. Raymond stops him, using a mirror to trick the probe, which eventually crawls away. Soon, aliens creep down into the basement, curiously touching their things. Harlan aims his gun, but Raymond wrestles with him silently to keep their presence a secret until the aliens leave. The next day, they look out the window and see a tripod capturing a man to harvest his biological fluids, which are sprayed across the landscape. The horrific harvest drives Harlan completely insane. He loudly yells about building secret tunnels right in his basement floor. Realizing the noise will get them killed, Raymond blindfolds Rachel, asks her to sing her favorite song, and reluctantly locks himself in with Harlan to dispose of him. Raymond returns to comfort his daughter, but the next morning the drone reappears and stares point-blank at Rachel. She screams, and Raymond jumps up with an axe, chopping the probe and causing a dark fluid to gush out. Rachel bolts upstairs in panic, and Raymond sprints after her, where a massive tripod grabs the screaming child, putting her inside its holding cage. Raymond quickly grabs some grenades from a destroyed vehicle and runs after the machine. The tripod notices him and scoops him up as well, dropping him into the cage. The monster deploys a tube to drag a prisoner up for fuel, then grabs Raymond's leg. As he is lifted, Raymond grabs his grenades. Soldiers in the cage grab Raymond's arm, pulling him out, but he successfully leaves the grenades inside the suction device. A massive explosion tears through the tripod, causing it to crash. Raymond and Rachel notice the invasive red weeds are slowly withering away. They discover a lifeless tripod that has collapsed onto a house, realizing that the military didn't destroy it, it simply broke on its own. When another active tripod approaches, Raymond notices birds landing on its hull, realizing its energy shields are down. He shouts this to an officer, who immediately orders a heavy rocket assault on the machine. The machine crashes as its pilot growls and dies. Raymond and Rachel walk to her grandparents' house, where her emotional mother opens the door and tearfully hugs them. Then, Robbie steps onto the porch, having survived the battle. Raymond tightly hugs his son, as the narrator explains that microbes ultimately defeated the aliens because they were not immune like humans, who had evolved alongside them.
Please like and subscribe.